There were a lot of different pod racers, and this one was kind of a very early concept, and it looks like two 747 engines with this cockpit thing behind it. They incorporated airplane pieces and things into them, but they weren't just generic airplane engines. They were all custom built sci-fi Star Wars, pod racers. That was the first concept model I made for Star Wars, and it was really interesting because it was the first time I was exposed to George looking at artwork or a model or anything like that, and he talked for about 15 minutes about exactly how this thing would work. And the feeling I got was this guy was at the pod race yesterday, and he's telling a story about, well, this thing opens up and this electrical energy thing comes out and all these details about it. And I was just amazed. I was mesmerized by the fact that he could just do that. I know he'd been thinking about it for a long time, but it was really interesting to have him look at the model and just, this is how this would work. And, it was really, really fascinating. And I saw him do it a couple other times where it was just off the top of his head. He'd come up with all these mechanical explanations for things. The large models that we built, for the most part, they didn't wind up in the film. They wound up being model and texture reference for the CG department. Some of them did. There was like a hangar set where all the pods were parked, and we had them in there. But it was really interesting to go from that early model that was, cobbled together in my garage to these bigger versions of these engines that are, 4 feet long and incorporating that level of detail. One of the things I came up with just to kind of expedite things was a mold of these detail panels. This is what we would get out of it, and it's just this floppy plastic type material. Paint it up, and you get something that looks like that, which you could take and wrap around these tube structures on the pod racers to put other details on top of it, but it's just kind of a neat trick.